The fork was almost at Jeffrey Julian's mouth when the scream cut through the fancy restaurant. Every person stopped eating. Every conversation stopped. But nobody was more shocked than the billionaire CEO himself. He sat at table 12 with a piece of fish on his fork. "Stop! It's poisonous!" The voice came from a young black woman wearing a white waitress uniform. Her name tag said Mandy. She stood 20 feet away with fear in her dark eyes. Her hand was stretched out toward Jeffrey like she could stop him from eating. "Hello, friends. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please support me by subscribing to my channel. Like and share this video to your family and friends. I truly appreciate your kind heart." So, let's continue. Jeffrey Julian was worth $4.2 billion. He owned Julian Industries. Nobody ever yelled at him. Most people whispered around him and treated him like a king. His cold gray eyes looked at the young woman who had just ruined his important business dinner. He was eating with 3 men from Japan. Mr. Jude, Mr. Sato, and Mr. Benson all looked uncomfortable in their seats. "What did you say?" Jeffrey's voice was ice cold. Mandy did not back down. Her heart was beating so fast she could hear it, but she took a step closer to his table. "Sir, please don't eat that fish. It's poisonous. Please don't." The restaurant manager came running over. His name was Gerald, and he looked very nervous. His face was red. "Mandy, what are you doing?" "Mr. Julian, I am so sorry. This girl is acting crazy." "Crazy?" Mandy's voice shook. "Mr. Julian, that fish came from the same place that made 6 people sick last week. 2 of them almost died at Riverside Hospital." Jeffrey put down his fork slowly. Everyone in the restaurant was watching now. Rich people in expensive clothes turned to look. The soft music seemed too loud. "Young lady," Jeffrey said in a dangerous, quiet voice, "do you know who you are talking to?" "I know exactly who you are, Mr. Julian." Mandy's voice was steady now, but her hands shook. "You are the man I am trying to save." Gerald grabbed Mandy's arm. "That's enough. You're fired. Security." But Mandy pulled away from him. "The fish came from Coastal Seafood Company. They had problems with their fish 3 days ago. The health department said it was bad, but somehow this fish got to your restaurant anyway." Jeffrey looked at her face. Mandy was about 25 years old with kind eyes. Her hair was in a simple ponytail. Her uniform was clean even though she had worked all day. Something about her made him stop and listen. "How would a waitress know about health department warnings?" he asked. Mandy stood up straight. "Because I'm not just a waitress, sir. I have a college degree in public health from State University. I work here to pay my school loans while I look for a real job. And I know that bad fish can make your heart beat fast, make you sick, and in bad cases, make it hard to breathe." Mr. Jude whispered something to his friends. Jeffrey heard the word interesting. "Sir," Gerald said, his face getting redder, "I promise you our fish is the best quality. We get it from the same company for 10 years. This girl is just trying to make trouble." Mandy shook her head. 3 days ago, the power went out at the Coastal Seafood plant. The fish sat in warm temperatures for 6 hours. That made the fish dangerous. The health department told all restaurants and stores, but not everyone got the message. Jeffrey was a smart businessman. He built his company by knowing when people were lying and when they told the truth. Right now, every feeling he had told him this young woman was completely honest. "Gerald," Jeffrey said quietly, "call the kitchen. I want to know when this fish was delivered and from where." "Mr. Julian, this is crazy. Call them. Now." Gerald's face went white. He called the kitchen on his phone. After talking for a minute, he hung up and looked sick. "Well?" Jeffrey asked. "The fish was delivered yesterday from Coastal Seafood. But sir, we didn't know about any health department warning." Nobody said anything. Jeffrey looked at Mandy, who was still standing there, ready to face whatever happened to her. Then he looked at the fish on his plate and slowly pushed it away. "Thank you," he said simply. Mandy's shoulders relaxed. "You're welcome, sir." But Gerald was not finished. "Mr. Julian, I want you to know that this worker will be fired right away. What she did tonight was wrong, even if she was right about the fish." Actually, Jeffrey said in the voice that made his workers pay attention, what she did tonight was perfect. She saw danger and acted to stop harm, even though it could cost her job. That's the kind of honesty most people only dream about. He stood up from his chair. Jeffrey Julian was a tall man at 6 feet 2 inches. His gray hair was perfect, and his dark suit cost more than Mandy made in 3 months. But when he looked at her, his face was respectful. Miss Mandy Washington, sir. Miss Washington, would you join me for a moment? Mandy looked nervously at Gerald, who looked like he was about to explode, but she nodded and walked closer to Jeffrey's table. Gentlemen, Jeffrey said to the 3 men from Japan, I'd like you to meet Mandy Washington. Miss Washington, these men are from Jude Corporation in Tokyo. We are talking about working together. Mr. Jude stood and bowed a little. Miss Washington, that was very brave. She might have saved a life tonight, added Mr. Sato. In Japan, we respect such honor. Mandy felt overwhelmed. This was not how she thought her night would go. She had just seen a man about to eat something dangerous and acted without thinking. Now she was meeting important business leaders like she was somebody special. Miss Washington, Jeffrey continued, you said you have a degree in public health. What exactly did you study? Mandy was surprised by the question. I studied food safety and environmental health. I wrote my final paper on preventing food sickness in restaurants and food places. Mr. Benson raised his eyebrows. Very impressive. Such knowledge is valuable. Jeffrey was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Finally, he spoke. Miss Washington, Julian Industries has been looking for someone to run our new food safety department. We are getting into restaurants and hotels, and we need someone with your background and, more importantly, your honesty. Mandy's mouth fell open. What? The job starts at $85,000 a year, plus benefits and company stock. You would make food safety rules for all our restaurant businesses, work with health departments, and train workers. Are you interested? Gerald made a choking sound. Mandy felt dizzy. Mr. Julian, she said slowly, are you giving me a job? I'm giving you a career. The question is, are you ready for it? Mandy thought about her tiny apartment, her school loan bills, and all the rejection letters she got from companies over the past 6 months. She thought about her mother, who worked 2 jobs to help her through college. She thought about her dreams of really helping people stay healthy. Yes, she said firmly. Yes, I am. Jeffrey smiled, the first real smile anyone in the restaurant had seen from him all night. Excellent. Gerald, please let Miss Washington finish her work here tonight. This is her last day. Gerald's face went through many shades of purple. But, Mr. Julian, Gerald, your restaurant just tried to serve dangerous food to customers. If Miss Washington had not spoken up, we could have had a serious problem. I think you should worry less about punishing the person who stopped a crisis and more about fixing your food supply problems. Jeffrey turned back to Mandy. Miss Washington, here's my business card. Please call my assistant tomorrow morning. We'll set up a meeting to talk about your new job. Mandy took the fancy business card with shaking hands. Jeffrey Julian's personal card. She had gone from being a fired waitress to having a job offer from a billionaire in 10 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Julian, she managed to say. I will not let you down. I don't think you could if you tried, Jeffrey replied. You have already proven that you will do the right thing even when it's hard. That's the most important thing for any job. As Mandy walked away to get her things from the worker locker room, she could hear Jeffrey talking to the men from Japan. Gentlemen, what you just saw is exactly the kind of person we need in our company, someone who puts safety and honesty above everything else, even their own job. Mr. Jude nodded. Mr. Julian, if your company has people like Miss Washington, then Jude Corporation would be honored to work with you. In the locker room, Mandy sat down hard on the wooden bench. Her co-workers crowded around her, asking many questions at once. Girl, what just happened out there? Did you really yell at Jeffrey Julian? Is it true you got fired? Wait, did he give you a job? Mandy looked at the business card in her hands. It was real. This was really happening. Her friend Shanice sat down next to her. "Mandy, you know that man is worth like $4 billion, right?" "I know." "And you just yelled at him in front of the whole restaurant?" "I had to. He was about to eat bad fish." Shanice shook her head in amazement. "And instead of calling the police, he gave you a job." Mandy laughed, and it sounded a little crazy. "I think so. I hope so. What if he changes his mind?" "Honey," said another worker named Rita, "men like Jeffrey Julian don't change their minds. When they say something, they mean it. You just won the lottery." But Mandy was not thinking about money. She was thinking about her college professor, Dr. Martinez, who told her that most public health work happened behind the scenes. You prevent problems that people would never even know about. Tonight she had done exactly that. She had stopped a problem, maybe a small one, maybe a big one. But she had made a difference. 20 minutes later, Mandy walked out of Legrand Palace for the last time as a worker. She had changed out of her uniform into her regular clothes, jeans, sneakers, and a simple blue sweater. Her uniform was folded in a bag, along with her final paycheck. When she reached the restaurant's front door, she was surprised to see Jeffrey Julian waiting for her outside. He had left his business dinner to walk her out. "Miss Washington," he said, "I wanted to make sure you got home safely. It's late." Mandy was touched. "That's very kind of you, Mr. Julian, but I can take the bus." "No way. My driver is waiting." He pointed to a fancy black car at the curb. During the ride to Mandy's apartment, Jeffrey asked about her background, her education, and her career goals. Mandy found herself relaxing as they talked. Even though he was rich and powerful, Jeffrey Julian was easy to talk to. He listened carefully to her answers and asked good questions. "Miss Washington," he said as they pulled up to her apartment building, "can I ask you something personal?" "Sure." "Why did you speak up tonight? You knew it would probably cost you your job. Most people would have stayed quiet." Mandy thought for a moment. "My grandmother used to say that if you see someone walking toward a cliff, you don't worry about being polite. You yell as loud as you can to stop them. Tonight, you were walking toward a cliff. I had to yell." Jeffrey nodded slowly. "Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman." "She was. She raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 12. She always taught me to speak up when something was wrong, even if it was scary." "What would she think about tonight?" Mandy smiled. "She would probably say I should have yelled louder." Jeffrey laughed. A real laugh, not the polite laugh he used in business meetings. "I think I would have liked your grandmother." "She would have liked you too, Mr. Julian. She always said that good people know other good people." The next morning, Mandy called Jeffrey's assistant, a professional woman named Patricia, who set up a meeting for that afternoon. Mandy spent the morning reading about Julian Industries, preparing for what she hoped would be the most important job interview of her life. Julian Industries owned hotels, restaurants, food processing plants, and many other businesses related to food and hospitality. It was exactly the kind of company where someone with Mandy's background could really make a difference. The Julian Industries building was downtown, a tall tower of glass and steel that went 30 stories into the sky. Mandy had never been inside such a fancy building. The lobby had marble floors and a fountain in the center. Security guards in expensive suits checked her ID and gave her a visitor's badge. Jeffrey's office was on the 28th floor. The elevator ride felt like it took forever. Mandy's hands were sweating, and she kept checking her reflection in the shiny elevator doors. Patricia, Jeffrey's assistant, was a kind woman in her 50s who made Mandy feel comfortable right away. "Mr. Julian is very excited to meet with you," she said. "He hasn't stopped talking about how impressed he was with your quick thinking last night." Jeffrey's office was huge, with big windows that showed an incredible view of the city. But what struck Mandy most was how comfortable it felt. Yes, the furniture was expensive, but it was also warm and welcoming. There were family photos on his desk and books on the shelves that looked like they had been read. Jeffrey stood up when she came in, holding out his hand for a firm handshake. "Miss Washington, thank you for coming. Please sit down." For the next hour, They talked about the job. Mandy would be responsible for making food safety rules for all of Julian Industries' restaurant operations. She would work with government health agencies, train workers, do inspections, and investigate any food safety problems. It was exactly the kind of work she had dreamed of doing. "The salary we talked about is just the beginning," Jeffrey explained. "As the department grows, so will your pay. And Miss Washington, I want to be clear about something. I didn't offer you this job because I felt sorry for you, or because I wanted to look good. I offered it to you because you are exactly the right person for it." "How can you be sure?" Mandy asked. "You barely know me." Jeffrey leaned back in his chair. "Miss Washington, last night you had everything to lose and nothing to gain by speaking up. You did it anyway because it was the right thing to do. That tells me everything I need to know about who you are. Skills can be taught, but honesty is something people either have or they don't. You have it." Mandy felt tears in her eyes. "Mr. Julian, I need you to know that I will work harder than anyone else in this building. I will not let you down. I know you won't, but Mandy, may I call you Mandy? I also want you to know that you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You have already proven everything that matters." 3 months later, Mandy was getting used to her new life as Director of Food Safety for Julian Industries. She had moved into a better apartment, paid off some of her school loans, and even sent her mother on a vacation to Hawaii. But more importantly, she was making a real difference. In her first month on the job, she had found 3 possible food safety problems that could have made people seriously sick. She had created training programs that were being used in all Julian Industries properties, and she was working with the health department to create better ways to share food safety information. Jeffrey had become not just her boss, but a teacher. He checked on her regularly, not to watch over her work, but to see how she was doing and if she needed anything. He introduced her to other executives as the woman who saved my life, which always made Mandy blush. The story of what happened at Le Grand Palace had spread throughout the company. Mandy had become famous, the waitress who stood up to the CEO and got promoted instead of fired. But to Mandy, it was simpler than that. She had seen someone in danger and acted to help them. That's all. One Friday afternoon, Jeffrey stopped by Mandy's office. She had been given a corner office on the 15th floor, with windows looking out over the city park. It wasn't as high up as Jeffrey's office, but it was beautiful and more than Mandy had ever dreamed of having. "How are you getting used to everything?" Jeffrey asked, sitting across from her desk. "It's been amazing, Mr. Julian. I love this work. I feel like I'm actually making a difference." "You are. The Japanese deal went through, by the way. Jude Corporation was very impressed with our commitment to safety and honesty. They specifically mentioned you in their final talks." Mandy was surprised. "Me?" "They said that any company with workers willing to put safety above everything else was a company they wanted to work with. Your actions that night didn't just save my health, they helped close a $50 million deal." "I had no idea." Jeffrey smiled. "That's what makes it so valuable. You didn't do it for attention or reward. You did it because it was right." As he got up to leave, Jeffrey stopped at the door. "Mandy, I want you to know that night at the restaurant changed how I think about a lot of things. I've been running this company for 15 years, and I've always focused on profits, growth, and market share. But watching you risk your job to protect someone you didn't even know reminded me what really matters." "What's that?" "People. Taking care of people. Making sure they're safe, treated fairly, given chances to succeed. I've changed my priorities since that night, and it's made me a better leader, and I think, a better person." After he left, Mandy sat in her office looking out at the city. She thought about her grandmother, who had died just before Mandy graduated from college. She thought about that night at Le Grand Palace, when she had made a quick decision that changed her whole life. But mostly, she thought about how proud she felt to go to work every morning, knowing that her job was to keep people safe. It wasn't glamorous work. Most people would never know when she stopped a food safety problem because the problem never happened. But that was okay. The best public health work was invisible work. 6 months later, Mandy was invited to speak at the National Food Safety Conference. She stood at the podium, looking out at hundreds of food safety professionals, restaurant owners, and health department officials. "Good morning," she began. "My name is Mandy Washington, and I'm the Director of Food Safety for Julian Industries. But 6 months ago, I was a waitress at Le Grand Palace restaurant. I want to tell you about the night I yelled at a billionaire, and why sometimes the most important thing you can do is make some noise." She told the story of that evening, how she had seen a dangerous situation and acted without thinking about what might happen to her. How that moment of courage had changed not just her life, but had affected food safety rules across an entire corporation. "The lesson I learned that night," Mandy concluded, "is that food safety isn't just about following rules or checking temperatures. It's about being willing to speak up when something is wrong, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable, because someone's life might depend on your willingness to make noise." The audience gave her a standing ovation. After her speech, a young man came up to her. He looked nervous, wearing a name tag that said he was a kitchen supervisor from a local restaurant. "Miss Washington," he said, "I want you to know that your story inspired me to report a problem at my restaurant. Our manager was cutting corners on food storage, and I was afraid to say anything because I needed my job. But after hearing you speak, I realized I had to do something." Mandy smiled. "What happened?" "The manager got fired, and I got promoted, but more importantly, we stopped what could have been a serious outbreak. Thank you for showing me that doing the right thing is always worth it." As Mandy drove home that evening, she thought about how strange life could be. One moment of courage, one decision to speak up, had created waves that were still spreading. Her voice had not only saved Jeffrey Julian from food poisoning, but it had inspired changes in food safety practices, influenced a $50 million business deal, and now encouraged other people to find their own courage. Her phone rang as she pulled into her driveway. It was Jeffrey. "Mandy, I heard your speech was incredible today." "How did you know about that already?" Jeffrey laughed. "I have my ways. Listen, I wanted to call and tell you how proud I am of you, and to thank you again." "For what now?" "For yelling stop when it mattered most. For being brave when being quiet would have been easier. For reminding me that the best business decisions are the ones that put people first." Mandy smiled. "Thank you for listening when I yelled. I'll always listen when you have something important to say. That's what good leaders do." As Mandy hung up the phone and walked toward her apartment, she could almost hear her grandmother's voice. "When you see someone walking toward a cliff, you don't worry about being polite. You yell as loud as you can to stop them." Sometimes, Mandy thought, the most important words you can say are the simplest ones. "Stop. It's dangerous. I'm here to help." And sometimes, if you're very lucky, someone will listen. Dear friends, thank you so much for watching. Please support me by subscribing to my channel. And don't forget to like and share this video. It means the world to me. Take care of yourself and never forget how much you're loved. I can't wait to see you in the next video. Sending you all my love.